Hello and welcome to video number 19 in Embolden's video tutorial series. In this video, we're going to be talking about working with documents on your website. This video will probably be a little bit longer than some of the other ones have been so far because there's a few different things we want to cover, both the technical aspects and some general best practice strategic advice as far as working with documents. So, to work with documents, to link to a document, much like linking to anything else, first you need to highlight some text, and as we've done in all of these videos, I'm showing you that you want to use the keyboard and to highlight text rather than the mouse, specifically when you're creating links, especially in a list like this. So I hold down the Shift key, I use the arrow keys, I select the text I want, and now I'm going to click the Document Manager icon here, which is right next to our Hyperlink Manager. So the Document Manager is the piece of paper with the red paperclip. So I click this, and what it will do is show me the documents folder that's on your server, which will show me what's already there. So I created this new folder called New Folder. You can create as many subfolders as you want in here. So if you want to organize your document, if you are going to have a very document-heavy website, it makes sense from the beginning to create subfolders and use subfolders to organize things, or come up with a very rigid naming convention that will easily allow you to find documents. A very common problem that most websites have, especially if they're very document heavy or image heavy, is after they've been around for a year or two and they have so many files up there, whether it's documents or images, that they can't find things because there's no common naming convention. You can rename things through this system. So you could rename an image or a document. You can move things around. So if there's a document in the public folder, I can drag it over to new folder. However, anytime you do that, any links to that document or any pages where that image exists, the image tag will break or the link to the document will break. So you'll need to manually go in and update all of those if you've renamed your image or renamed your document or moved it to a different folder. So certainly starting from the very beginning, coming up with a naming convention that makes sense, staying organized with subfolders is greatly going to help you down the road. That being said, to link to a document, you just find one. So I'm going to click Other Docs here. I have my example doc. I'm going to insert that. So basically, I select a document. I can tell this is a Word doc. I have whatever link text I've selected. I have the target. The target, again, is whether it opens in a new window or the same window. The general rule of thumb is documents should open in a new window because most people will read the document and then close out of it, expecting your website to still be there. So documents go in a new window. Tooltip, this is the optional field we talked about with external links where I can put in, this is technically the title attribute of the link for those who know HTML, but I can put a tooltip in here, and that's just something that will help identify where that link is going a little bit more. So, example doc. And the CSS class you will generally not be using if you are an Embolden client. So we click Insert. I've now created a link to a document. So if I clicked this and I was not in the editor, I could click this and it would open up Word and open up that document. So one of the obvious questions is, well, what if I have a document that's not up there on the server? How do I get it up there so that I can link to it? So I'm going to break this link and I'm going to, again, select this text so that we can talk about how you upload a document and link to it. So with the text selected, I go back into the Document Manager, and you may have noticed there is an upload button here. If I click upload right now, it will open up a thing where I can select a file off of my website, off of my hard drive, and upload it to the web server. And because I'm in the Other Docs folder, that's where it's going to upload. It's going to upload into Other Docs. If I was in New Folder, it would upload into New Folder. If I wanted to create even more folders, I can click the New Folder button to create more, and I can, right-click in here to rename things and that sort of thing. So I'm going to upload something into New Folder. I click the Upload button, and what I see is I have a couple fields open. I can upload multiple documents at once. If you have an older version of the RadEditor, this interface will look a little different. You won't be able to upload multiple things. But I can click Select. It will open up the window that shows me my hard drive. I would then navigate through, find something I want to upload, and upload it. I'm not going to upload something to this server at this time. But I would just find a document, click open, and that's going to put it up there. Once I had a document that I wanted to upload, I can just click upload and it will be done. I can add multiple things. So if I want to upload 4 documents, I just click this add button. Each time I click it, I will get a new upload field here. If I decide I don't want to upload a certain thing, I can just click remove to get rid of it. If I have empty ones, like if I had something in this first field, these other 2 were empty, I can still just click upload. These being empty will not throw an error. If I'm uploading a file that has the same name as an existing file in that folder, it's going to want to know, essentially, do I want to overwrite the existing file or not? So if there was a file up there, if I was uploading a new file called example in that same folder where the current example doc is, if I click overwrite, then it would just upload fine. If I don't click this, I would get an error saying there's already a document with that name because it's trying to prevent me from making a mistake. There's going to be a maximum file size set. This is adjustable by Embolden, or if you're not an Embolden client, by whoever your web host is. There's also specific file types allowed. Again, this is adjustable. You can't not have allowed file types, but if there's ones that aren't on this list, they can be added by Embolden or your web host. A big thing to think about with the overwriting, any file that is on your web server is generally public. There are some things we can do as far as securing them, but that's a whole other conversation. If there is a file up here that's 4 years old and it's not linked to anymore, you should still assume it's been indexed by Google or somebody has it bookmarked somewhere and can get to it. So if you have things that change, let's say you have a calendar that you post as a PDF, which we would recommend that you not do that you have an actual calendar module on your site, but again, that's a different conversation. But let's say you have a calendar that you post as a PDF, and it needs to schedule, and it needs to update, say, every year. As long as it's clearly identified by the year, it's probably okay. But you'd be much better off just naming it, calendar.doc or .pdf, and then when you put the new one in, you just also name that calendar.pdf and overwrite the old one. That way, if somebody comes to the calendar, they are always getting the newest calendar. You don't want to keep old documents up here that have out-of-date information that are not clearly labeled that they're old and out of date somehow. Certainly an old annual report, it's clear that it's the 2008 annual report, and people will want to see that for archiving reasons. But if you have a flyer of event information and something changes on that, you don't want to just upload a new document called event flyer _new or event flyer _final -use this -real, and you wouldn't believe the file names we see sometimes, but you want to just call it event flyer or whatever the original event flyer was called and upload over that. That way when somebody finds it on Google or whatever, they are only getting the newest information. So the takeaway from this is any document that is on your web server should be assumed to be public. Whether or not it is in this public folder does not matter. So that being said, that's one of the best practices about working with documents, is making sure that you are keeping your documents up to date and not storing all of your old documents up there. And again, that means having a good naming convention, actually, having a person call the documents every once in a while, look and make sure that you don't have old out-of-date information up there. Another good practice when you're linking to documents or working with documents is to identify clearly that somebody's going to a document. So if you have a whole list of links and a couple of them are going to PDF files and the rest are going to websites, Embolden always recommends that you identify, this is going to a PDF, and you may even want to say, it's 50K. So you want to say the size. You don't have to say the size, although it's a nice thing to do, but clearly you want to identify to somebody that when you click on this, you are not getting another website. It's going to open up Acrobat Reader or open up a new window and open it as a PDF, depending on what browser you're using. It's just better for user experience to make sure the user always knows what they're going to get. When users don't get what they expect on the web, they tend to get frustrated. So you can either just put the letters PDF, or you can put the PDF icon if you have that image on your site. And same with Word docs and that sort of thing. PDFs are really built for printing. So if it's something you expect somebody to print, certainly a PDF is a good format. If it's something you just happen to have as a PDF, like we happen to have PDFs of our press releases, so we put those up online and link to them rather than taking the time to put them on as articles in DNN or as pages in DNN, that is not really a good practice. You want to use actual regular HTML pages as much as possible rather than just linking out to PDFs. There's times where PDFs are very appropriate, but they shouldn't be used by default just because that happens to be the format you got the content in from whoever wanted it online. Word docs are generally not a great thing to put online simply because they are editable. So if it's something you want somebody to download it, change some stuff, edit it, fill it out, and email it back to you, that's great. But if it was something like a flyer, you're better off saving it as a PDF and putting it online as a PDF. That way you know what the end user is getting. So those are a few of the big best practices. Identifying documents, always making sure the documents on your website are correct and up to date, and not keeping old documents up there or several different versions of documents up there. The last thing I want to talk about is document file names themselves. You generally want to stick to letters, numbers, and underscores for your file names for both documents and images. You can have spaces in file names from a technical perspective. Spaces in file names used to break the link. So if you clicked on a document link and there was a space in the file name, you would get a 404 error. Browsers can generally handle that no problem now. However, when you are looking in analytics or a program like that, what you'll usually see is all of your documents that have spaces in the middle of the names, the space has been replaced with %20. And it just makes it a lot harder to read. So when you're trying to figure out how well your website's doing and do all of your reporting and that sort of thing, you're better off if you've gotten into the habit of using underscores rather than spaces in the file names. You always want to avoid special characters in the file names, things like ampersands, question marks, pound signs, single and double quotes, that sort of thing. Depending on what browser you're using and depending on some other factors, those things in your file names can break a link. They can even break the editor depending on what version of the editor you're on and what browser you're on, and a lot of other factors like that. So in general, stick with letters, numbers, and underscores in your file names. Clearly identify document links, and keep your files up to date. So that is our tutorial on working with documents, and that ends the section on linking. And up next, we're going to start talking about working with the image manager.